And we laugh about all these things today, but when we're grinding it out, there isn't a great deal to laugh about because we're grinding out every loving thing we own in our life that means anything to us. Little by little, it goes. Hell, the respect of the people I work for, the people I did business with, it was going. I saw them going up, and it was going pretty good, and then I was meeting them coming back down again because I couldn't handle it. In 1951, why, the old Yugoslavs, they sold out. And an Eastern firm pulled in, and they changed all the rules and the regulations. There wasn't going to be more booze on the job. And they weren't going to keep you around anymore if you were getting thrown into jail. Bail bonds, expense accounts that were running over, jobs that were running over the budgets. All of these things were a thing of the past, and they said there ain't going to be any more than that. But in 1951, you see, I'm in the throes. I can't live with it, and I can't live without it, and it's all I can do to stay even. You know, I'm coming from behind, I got the heat on so damn bad. It's just all I can do just to hang in there. And I don't take heed because I feel that they need me so bad. They got to have people like me because I make it run. I drive the line out there, and they got to have me. But you get in enough trouble long enough, hard enough, just a matter of time till they say, that's it. The next time I ever smell booze in your breath on the job, you're through. Get the hell out of my office. And so that respect is gone. And then one day I drive home, and I've been gone a couple of days now, and I'm sick as hell, and I pull the car into the driveway, I get out, and I'm walking in, and I'm thinking about what the hell I'm going to tell her. The old schemer, one more lie, one more promise, huh? Baby, give me a break, don't throw me out, I got a hell of a deal, think of the kids, I'll see a priest, I'll take another pledge, I'll do all of that. And then this day, I'm standing there, and she's not even sore, and there's no rebuttal, and she just says, Norm, I'm going to get you out of my life. You're a drunken bum. You'll never live to be 35 years old. You're drinking yourself to death. I'm a neurotic. The kids are neurotics. I spent the better part of this marriage sitting here looking through the front room window waiting to see your car come home. The nights you don't come in, I can't sleep. I wonder where the hell you are. I hear a siren running, and I think, my God, the police have got you. Or maybe you're laying dead out there in the middle of the street. Should I call an attorney? I've asked for separate maintenance. I put a restraining order against you. You can't set foot on the property. I'm going to divorce you. Get the hell out of my life. And the alcoholic and I can't believe that these are things that are being told to me. Because these things happen to everybody else. But you drink enough booze long enough and hard enough, it's just a matter of time until you grind it out. The wheels of alcoholism, they grind slow but fine. And inevitably the day comes when you stand there and every loving thing you got that means anything in your life is gone. Including the respect of yourself as a human being, as an individual. And when you lose your self-respect, you lose the world. When you stand there in the morning and you're washing your face and you got to hang your head because you can't tolerate what you're looking at. You know, you can kid every man jack in town, you can lay it on him, but even that doesn't mean anything anymore. You start finding gin mills now that don't have bars because you don't want to look. The respect of yourself is gone. That remorse is eating you alive. And one day you can't tolerate it any longer. It becomes a psychological second in your life when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And maybe it's the first time you come to the program or the 10th or the 15th time, at the time you walk in and you just surrender, you say, that's it. And in February of 1954, I made some kind of surrender and I didn't really know it. I'm laying there on the floor and I'm about as sick as I ever wanted to be. Physically, I wasn't that bad, but mentally and internally, and that remorse and that nagging and that, I don't even want to step outside. And you finally get to the point where you think, Jesus, there has got to be a better way than this. And I got to wondering about old Sullivan. I wonder what the hell he was doing. I was wondering if this AA thing was still around here. And so I got the telephone and I called information and I asked them if they would give me the number of AA. And they gave me the number of the central office down in Los Angeles. And I called and I got a hold of a man, and his name was Johnny Carroll. John was probably as fine a man as I ever met in my life. He gave away what he'd found. He gave away what he'd found all of his AA career. He was a soft-spoken, he was one hell of a guy. On a Thursday night, if you went down to the old Alhambra group and you walked up the stairs, and at the top of the stairs, while sitting there on the rail, was a guy named Johnny Carroll. He was waiting for the new guy to come in. God, and he could spot him. He'd grab you by the arm and he'd take you in, he'd pour you a cup of coffee, and he'd tell you something like this: why don't you come on in and sit down, son? You're new and you're young, and And keep an open mind now. You're going to hear some things you're not going to like, but throw it out and clear it out. Get yourself to a lot of meetings and be sure you buy a book. Get a hold of $3.50, he said, and get a hold of that book and read it and reread it. And he said, if you'll do things of this nature, you'll never have to take another drink again if you don't want to. And that's the man that I talked to on that Sunday afternoon. And that's the man that said, have you got a drinking problem? And I said, yeah, I think that I do. And he says, well, buddy, you don't have to ever take a drink again if you don't want to. He said, give yourself a break and write down these numbers. There are guys that live out in your area. Call them. He said, you'll get a hold of some of them eventually, and they'll be out to see you. And I called, and pretty soon a man came out. A couple hours later, 3 hours, whatever it was, and he came out to see me. And he sat there, and he told me about this AA. He told me about the program, told me about the things that were going to be necessary. Now, my sponsor was a little different than old John. My sponsor felt that Alcoholics Anonymous was a program for people who wanted it. You had to want it, and you had to want it as bad as you wanted the whiskey. And if you didn't want it that bad, he says, you're wasting a lot of time. You're wasting my time, and you're wasting your time. And you need us, and we don't need you, and don't you ever forget it. He says, you want it, you come and get it. You got a car, you drive. You haven't got the car, you take the bus. And if you haven't got the bus money, he says, you walk. He says, what the hell, you walk for whiskey, you can walk for this program, and it's a better deal. He says, I'm going to be down in Temple City tonight. Temple City meeting, meets down Rosemead. He says, I'll be there, and I'll be waiting for you. I'll take you in, and I'll introduce you. And if you want, I'll be your sponsor. And I didn't know what a sponsor was, but whatever it was, I didn't want him. I knew that. That much was for sure. Now, this guy's about as rotten an old man as I'd ever met in my life. Now, I'm not saying that his approach to the program is wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm only saying that's the way he put it down. Well, I went down to the meeting that night. I went down there because I was curious, I suppose. I wanted to see if he was going to be there. I went down there in spite of him. I went there in spite of myself. I went down there maybe to show him I had a car and maybe run over him with it. I went down for a lot of reasons, and a lot of them were no good. I may have went for all the wrong reasons, but I went down. And I pulled into the parking lot there, and by God, he was waiting. He walked up to my car, he opened the door, I got out, he put his arm around me, we walked in. I'll tell you for sure, I loved him from that day till the day he died. He was one big controversial individual, I'll tell you that. He had a hell of a lot of trouble. He had 8 years of sobriety. He was a tremendous speaker. He carried the message to thousands out there. Many people are sober today because of people like him. Guys like me, no question about it. I'm sober because of him. But he just couldn't grab it. He couldn't take the whole package. You see, to turn his will and his life over to the care of anybody on an all-time basis, he just couldn't do that. Chapter 6, for example, was for everybody else. It wasn't for him, it was for us. To live and let live, to tolerance, a God-given quality that assures another man he can live his life the way he wants to live it, not the way I want to direct it. That he can work his program the way he wants to work it, and not the way I want to direct it. He couldn't do that. He had to be the continual director. And we resented that, and then he resented us. And then he got drunk, and then he stayed out there 12 years. Because his ego wouldn't let him get back. His ego said, I'm the guy that carried the message to help the people. How many times did I hear him say, Norm, for crying out loud? All the people I sponsored are now my sponsor. And he'd go back out. That ego drove him crazy. And then he had a severe heart attack, and he came back to see us. And he had a year and a half with us, and then he died. And I loved him. And I loved him when he was drinking. And I love him today. And he's the only sponsor I ever had. And he's the only sponsor I ever want. Because he's the guy that took the time to come to see me. He's the guy that sat there and he laid it out and says that's the way it is. And he's the guy that met me down there at that Temple City meeting that night on a Sunday evening and took me in there and he introduced me around to a bunch of guys and got me a lot of phone numbers and 70, 80 of the finest drunks ever come out of the San Gabriel Valley. That was one hell of a group, that old Temple City meeting. We were a very wealthy group in those days. We had so much money. We had donuts before and after the meeting. I know that sounds a little far-fetched, but we did. And we didn't have them cheap jack cookies and plain donuts, you know. We had red jelly donuts. That was a sign of status in those days. Red jelly donuts are not only good to eat, but they're extremely good for new people. You see a new guy comes through the door and he's all green and hung out, and the red jelly donut committee would slide up on him, you know. Nice to have you here. You're new, aren't you? Would you like a donut? Oh, Jesus, no. I don't know whether you ever looked at a red jelly donut now when you got a hangover, but it'll sure make your teeth itch, I'll guarantee you. Yeah. Oh, God, no. And the meeting began, and the guy stood in front of the group that night, and he told everybody what a jackass he was, and they were hysterical. He talked about going to jail and people knocking the hell out of him, and people laughed. He talked about drinking Jamaica ginger and to give him the Jake leg, and that crippled him up so bad it put him in a hospital for 2 months, and everybody was just hysterical over the fact he couldn't walk. And your sponsor's sitting there going, yo, you can't walk, Norm. Yeah, he thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. And I didn't think it was very funny. As a matter of fact, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. As a matter of fact, I knew I was going to get out of that meeting because I was not near that bad. I'd have a little trouble out there. 25 jails, a little Vitalis, a little Aquavalva, a little Sneaky Pete. But I never had any Jake leg. I don't even know what that is. I looked at him and I'm thinking, he's an old man. He's a street man out of L.A. Hell yeah, I savvy. I identify in the beginning, but the more he talked, no identification. Old man. Well, what the hell? I have no story. Underqualified. Too young. I better get out of here. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm going to do. And then he said it doesn't make any difference what you drank or where you drank it or how much you consumed or how old you are. He said it's what it's doing to you. He said if it's tearing up any part of your life, you don't have to go anymore. You don't have to drink again. Any part of your life is being torn up. You're qualified. I think, yeah. Well, that one thing is for sure, it's tore the hell out of my life. It's tore the hell out of me. I'm not so sure I'm going to quit drinking, but Jesus, I'd sure like to get the monkey off, huh? I'm tired of that out there. I'm tired of ending up in the tank, people knocking me down, people hiding from me hiding from them. I'm tired of dying every time I hear the phone ring for fear of some bill collector or some guy I owe the dough to. I'm tired of walking into the job and wondering what the hell the boss is and sneaking around. I'm tired of all that. As I looked at that guy that night, the one thing I knew for sure was I didn't have to go through that anymore. I didn't have to do that anymore. How do I know? I know that. Because AA is a program of example. That's what it is, isn't it? You know, what he is speaks so loud. I cannot hear a word he says. By example. There stood a guy, that had a lot of trouble in his life. He'd been in 70, 80 jails. He'd had all these problems. His woman had divorced him and remarried. And his kids hated him. And he says, if I can do what you can. And you think, yeah, maybe I can. Yeah, he bought the package and his life changed. His attitude changed. And these kids came down to see him one day, the kids that hated him. And they learned to like him, respected him. And he said, one day a miracle came to pass. They loved me. I look around that night, I see the whole thing, man. One night I see the big tough ones. The 6-foot, 200-pound tough guys out of South El Monte, Garvey Acres, Wilmar, sitting there and the tears are streaming down their face. They're crying. Unashamed, they're crying for the joy of it all. And the story was related. The story that I've heard many times is they would laugh because they were miserable and they cried because they were happy and they called it AA. You may want to say that's oversimplification, it might be, but it's the only program I got. You see, I discovered through the laughter of the program I could clear out the wreckage of my past. Through the laughter I discovered a way that I can clear out the wreckage of the future of this day would have come down to see me. God give me the strength to laugh through it. Through the laughter I discovered a way to take 1,000 pounds of guilt off my back and I laid it down out there. And through that laughter I discovered a way that I could exist on the street. That I could be somebody. Yeah. That I could too make a transition. That I no longer had to be that taker, that hustler, that everything out there. That I could be a giver, and by giving a giver, by being a giver, I will have the world. And Alcoholics Anonymous is a program of giving, isn't it? Huh? You can't keep what you don't give away, and the more you give, the better it is. And you didn't buy it, and you can't sell it, and you can only give it. And my sponsor says, Norm, what the hell, we got room for all of us here. Sure, there's a job for all of us. You pick up the ashtrays, the coffee cups, you put away the chairs. You do a good job, we run you for secretary, we guarantee you the job. You want to go beyond that, we central service, general service, institutional. Or maybe just going out there and calling on the guy in the middle of the night that's hurting, huh? Boy, that's where it's at. He says, yeah, that's it. Isn't it? Sitting there one-on-one with a guy He's talking to you and giving a little, and then you're talking to him and you're giving a little back. Then pretty soon you know it's a give and take. And pretty soon he says, man, will you pick me up tomorrow night and take me to a meeting? And so then you pick him up and you take him to a meeting. And you take him to a few more, and then pretty soon he's going on his own. And the next thing you know, a year goes by, and he's standing up in front of the home group one night, and he's getting a cake. He's got a candle on it. And he blows out the candle, and he looks out there in the audience. He sees you. There he is. There. My sponsor. My sponsor! He saved my life. Without him, I wouldn't be here. And if you're the sponsor he's talking about, as humble as we alcoholics are, you might turn to the guy sitting next to you, and you might say, I'm his sponsor, you know. Yeah. Now, you don't do it because you're out there on some ego trip, do you? No, hell no. Not really. You do it because you're overwhelmed with a sense of well-being. And a sense of well-being is what I was looking for all my life. Isn't that why we drank? Made me feel good. I drank that whiskey because it gave me a buzz, man. I like that buzz. I like to hit that plateau. I like to be buzzy. Yeah, you just buzzy all over. I want to stay that way forever. That's why I'd order one more, just to stay even, just to hold that buzz. Trying to stay even damn near killed me. Down the chute I went, yeah. When I woke up in the morning, that old buzz was gone, yeah. And in his place was that other friend of mine. You met him, old Remorse. He walked in from time to time and says, what do you say, Norm? Jerk my guts out. That's what he did. And the only way I get him out of my life, I drink a little whiskey. I drink a little whiskey, he's gone. That was such a temporary thing, though, and I traded that in for the sense of well-being I've experienced here. And all I've had to do is be willing to give a little for the hell of it and want nothing in return. The giving. Helping people to help themselves to get in another day. That's the bottom line. As I look back now, I think about, the second meeting I went to was damn near the last meeting I ever went to in AA. I think about what the hell I could have missed. See, my sponsor says, he says, Norm, we're all going over to Pasadena tomorrow night to the meeting. I said, you're kidding. I said, Pasadena's a rotten town. We got rotten cops there, too. He said, I don't care whether you go or not. I go there on Monday night. If you don't want to go, don't go. I told him I'm going. What the hell. He doesn't think I can drive to Pasadena, that's right. That's why I went over to Pasadena, the old-timers group over there. Yeah, you had to be sober 10 years in those days to read the steps. The speaker that night had been sober 137 years, yeah. Old-timer. Sat up there and he talked. When he talked, he showed a picture of himself. It was a great big blown-up mugshot, taken him when he's doing time in the county jail. Now, the point he tried to get across was, he says, now look at me here, man, when I'm drinking. And then look at me now. And I looked at that picture, and I looked at Artie, and I thought, Jesus, he looked better drunk, that guy did, yeah. This AA thing ages the hell out of these buggers. I got to get out of here. And the next day, on the way to work, I'm coming down Arrow Highway. I'm going through the town of Irwindale. Tony's liquor store was over on the left. My car turned in there. Automatic, always did, And I just pulled in. I walked in, and I said, Tony, give me a pony. And so she gave me a pony. And I took it out of the car, and I cracked it, and I took a long drag out of it. I threw it away, and from that day to this, it hasn't been necessary to take a drink. God moves in strange and mysterious ways, in spite of yourself. Now, my sponsor said, Norm, you got to go to 3 meetings, and after 3 meetings, well, you make some kind of decision. And I didn't want him to think that I couldn't get to 3 meetings. And so I went to that 3rd meeting, and the 3rd meeting was kind of the turnaround. Because I met a half a dozen guys, and they're about the same age, and we started running together and going meetings together, having meetings after the meetings together, getting the in-depth inventories taken after the meeting. We noticed there were a lot of flaky people in AA. A lot of cliques, too. We formed our own clique to be against the cliques, how that goes. Then we run one of our guys for secretary of the group. We got him in. Yeah, we thought we had it made. He joined the other cliques. Yeah. Then I got to find out that the only clicks in AA is a clicking in your head, isn't it, huh? What the hell, you can have anything you want if you're big enough to want it, big enough to go after it. Sure. No, there's people in AA you're not going to run with. There's people in AA I wouldn't drink with. So it goes without saying. But there's nobody in AA who would dislike me so bad he'd like to see me take a drink. Now, ain't that a hell of a deal? He may hate me, disagree with everything I stand for. But if I called him up and says, Charlie, will you see me? I got to talk to somebody. You know something? He'd take time out. He'd come down to see me. That's got to be one hell of a deal, doesn't it? That's got to be as good a deal as I've ever found in my life. I'd like to be able to tell everybody here tonight, every day's a holiday or a meal's a banquet, there's no pucky on the street. That isn't what they guaranteed me. They said, sobriety and a way of life, and whatever you are, you're going to be better at, Norm. What the hell, you're a ditch digger? You'll be a better ditch digger. We don't guarantee you a ton of scratch and drive a big iron, boy. No, that may never happen. But we got a program for you here. We got a living program. You take that program, man, you go on out there on that street when it gets tough, well, you'll live through it. We'll give you the strength to be counted when the heartbreak and the grief and the misery, when the disappointments, when they're heaped upon you, we got the strength. And don't ever forget it. And when the disappointments come, and when the heartbreak is there, it's very difficult to be rational, isn't it, huh? Sometimes. I've been there. I'll probably go there again. I sure as hell don't look forward to it because I don't handle it very well. You see, when it gets real tough out there in those days, I have a tendency to forget who the hell I am and where I came from and what it took to bring me to that point in my life. I find myself crying a poor mouth about what I didn't get, or what I did get. I forgot to remember years like 46 when I slammed into that car and thought I'd killed him. Or 51 when I'm laying in the tank in West Texas. Dirt floor and the cockroaches are running over my head. And I've been there 3 days and I don't even know why I'm in. They won't let me make any bail. And they don't give you anything to eat. If I think it's tough today, I better think about places like that. I better remember that I had to give all that up when I came to AA. Those were sacrifices I made. A cockroach hasn't run on my head now for 28 years. So no matter how tough it gets out there, it hasn't gotten that tough. Not yet it hasn't. I better thank him. That's what I better do. I better say thank you very much for the 28 years you let me walk out there on the sunny side of the street. For you see, I know guys that died and never saw 28 days. They walked the street of booze and fantasy, busted dreams and broken hearts and tears by the bucketful. Hell, old Sully that brought the program to me in 1946 went back out after 3 years. He drank out there for a period of time. He had an internal hemorrhage. He bled to death. He went out about as hard as you go. He had the heat on, the screws down. He had to justify his existence to the bitter end. And he was a young man, for crying out loud. And they couldn't find 6 people to carry the box. 6 pallbearers. They couldn't find them. Ain't that a hell of a note? So how tough is it? I'm overpaid. How overpaid am I? I couldn't tell you because I couldn't find the proper words to tell you. I can only tell you that this day I've been able to function, to be able to be out on the street, to be able to talk to people and not hide in doorways, to be a competitor, to not have to justify my existence or compromise my life, to be able to get on through with it and go home tonight and I'll go on in the house, and in that house that I'm living in is a woman. She's my woman. She's red-headed Irish woman. She's glad I'm coming in tonight, I think. You don't get it all worked out, and you know, in 34 years it takes time. But she respects me. That much I know. Just because I'm her old man and I've been even all day. And nobody has cried. Nobody cries. Not tonight when I get home in my house because their old man is drunk and tearing it up. And I haven't heard a kid of mine scream at me for years. I've had the opportunity to raise them on up from small ones to big ones, and I've seen them go on out there and be people, get educated. Some of them did. I got a couple of sons that are my business partners today. I got daughters that I've had the opportunity to take downtown, one by one, and I bought them the first pair of high-heeled shoes they ever put on their feet. They say, baby, come on, we're going downtown, man. You're going to a dance, and I'm going to buy the shoes. And she put on a pair of shoes one day. They all did. They were the chickens of my life. They became the women of my life. And I looked at them, and each and every time I've always had to cry a little bit because, you know, the transformation of chickens to women. And there's a great disadvantage to it because women that gasses, and they come in my house year after year. Jesus, they're still coming through. I got one at the house. She's 17. She's a caboose, and they're coming back through again, and they're worse now than I've ever seen. Either that or I'm much older. I don't know. One come in 3 months ago was absolutely the worst I had ever looked at, and I just couldn't restrain myself. I says, you know, he had his hat on. I asked him, for Christ's sake, boys, your head cold. I want to tell you something. When I was stealing and breaking into houses, I took my hat off. At least I did that, yeah. And my daughter says, you know, I'm embarrassed. You've embarrassed me. I says, baby, I'm going to tell you what I told your sisters. I got the privilege, I got the right. I've been sober all your life. You never had to say that's your father, the drunken bum on the floor. Because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I've been sober, and because I've been sober, I've been rational most of the time. I've been able to fill my obligations, and I've been able to participate in your life. You invited me to ball games, I go. You invited me to the music center to see you dance, I go. You invite me to a jazz concert, you're a participant, I go. I got splinters in my butt from the basketball games, but I go. That gives me the right to say I don't like that flaky bastard right there in my house. But they disagree. But the beauty of it all is that I've walked their sisters down the aisles and I've given them away. I've cried every foot of the way. My son-in-laws are working and taking baths. I got them in a driller in the oil business. I got a dentist. I'm going to have teeth and gas, you know. What the hell? I got 5 granddaughters, and I got a grandson, and I got Alcoholics Anonymous, and I got the world. I got the best deal I ever had. I'd like to tell you the good deal. I'd like to be able to put the words to this deal, but how the hell do you? I can only tell you, friend, if you're sitting out there and knew, it's been a hell of a walk from the L.A. County Jail, Lincoln Heights, to the point that I stand today. And but for the grace of God, Alcoholics Anonymous, and friends like you, I could have missed it all. Thanks a million. God love you.
Thank you, Norm. That was great. Let's have another hand for Norm. Happy birthday again to Paul, and congratulations to the chip takers. And I want to thank Greg for asking me to lead. And I want to have somebody read a vision for you for us. I wanted to say this. Well, I was going to have somebody. I found somebody on the program that Norm was referring to, the kind of sponsor and friend that, I just never could find out there on the streets. That has really stuck with me through the sober years and through some drunk years. And then now again through some sober years. And I hope everybody, is able to find that kind of a friend in this program eventually. But he disappeared. Another good friend, though. Carol, will you read a vision for you and lead us in the Lord's Prayer?
My name is Carol, and I'm an alcoholic. A vision for you. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road to happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Our Father, who art in heaven, Recorded at the Valley Club, May the 27th, 1982.
Our speaker tonight is Norm A.
Good evening, folks. My name's Norm, and I'm an alcoholic. And I am happy to have the opportunity to be here tonight, particularly to be able to say happy birthday to Paul, and I hope that I see him sometime next year, either at a meeting or walking down the street, and I'll have the opportunity to say happy birthday again, sincerely. And to welcome the new people that are here tonight for your first 30 days in Alcoholics Anonymous. And being new, if you will, tonight, why try to keep an open mind, and what you can use, why take it with you, and if you can't use it, why be good enough to kick it under the chair and leave it. We've got maybe, I guess, about 12 to 1,500 meetings a week here in Southern California, which gives you a real opportunity to get out and get to a lot of meetings before you make any decisions about Alcoholics Anonymous or about this particular meeting, about the Valley, or about me as a speaker. You have to remember that anything that I may try and say here tonight are going to be things that I personally believe in. It's going to be what the program of Alcoholics Anonymous means to me. It's going to be some things that I've used to stay sober over a period of time. That I'm not by any stretch of the imagination an authority or consultant on the program Alcoholics Anonymous. That I'm an example, good or bad, that AA works. That it has been necessary for me to take a drink, steal anything, or go to jail now for over 28 years. I'm sure that nobody here tonight's impressed. And I can tell, yeah. But I am, obviously, or I never brought it up. And I've been talking about it for years, and I really believe that somewhere down the road, why, we'll probably get a pension program going here in AA. And when that comes to pass, why, Paul and I want to get credit for all our time. So we bring it up anytime we have the opportunity, and if I don't have the opportunity, I'm going to tell you about it anyway. But to the new people that are sitting out there tonight, it's a very difficult thing to digest. I can understand that. You know, tonight you see a fellow, he gets up here, he's talking, 29 years, I'm talking about 28 years, and, we're over 50 years between the two of us, and you're sitting there, and you're a couple of days sober, a week sober, and you're nervous and sitting on your hands and jumping out of your knickers, and you hear people talking about sobriety, and you probably would like to go outside and throw up. And that I can understand, because I can remember how I was sitting in that first AA meeting, and I hope I never forget. I was 29 years old at the time. I'm sitting there at my first AA meeting. The main speaker that night stood there, and he said, I haven't found it necessary to take a drink, steal anything, or go to jail now for 9.5 years. And I had the same, reaction. What a liar he is. God almighty. He has to be the biggest one I've ever heard, and I've been surrounded by a lot of liars in my life, myself included. And I'm thinking, he's lying. Because there isn't any way. There isn't any way that anybody can operate out there in that rotten street, deal with all those lousy people, meet your responsibilities, and be sober for 9.5 years, and I just could not visualize it. And it did make me a little sick to my stomach, too. And I hadn't come to AA for 9.5 years to compound that problem. Who the hell did? I came to AA for a little while. You see, I had a lot of heat on, and I felt that this was going to be the answer. I'd be able to get the heat off. I'd be able to get back out on the street and get going, because I had a lot to do. Alcoholics are busy people, and I had a lot going out there, and I wanted to get back out before it was all gone. I was deeply concerned about a great deal of things. My friends, for example, my best friends, I couldn't think of their names, but they were my best friends. I wanted to get back out there and make sure that they were all right, and they were going to survive, and I would help guide them through life. And you go on and on with this thing. Jesus, the alcoholic is the greatest rationalizer in the world, and I damn near rationalized myself right out the door back down to those gin mills, but I kept going to meetings, and that was my salvation. And if I'm going to say anything tonight that may be significant, to meetings, get to meetings, go to a lot of meetings. And it doesn't make any difference whether you've been around for 28 days or 28 years. Without the meetings, it's very difficult for people like me to function. I don't know about you, but it is for me. You see, I need the equalizer of my life. And the equalizer in my life are the people in Alcoholics Anonymous. Without them, well, it's just very difficult. They have the answers to my problems, to a lot of them. They are people that I can sit around and I can talk to about any specific or unspecific problems. If I could have found the answers to life and living and the pursuit of happiness and sobriety, for crying out loud, I'd have still been out there on that street. But they didn't have the answers, not to my existence. It was here. And I came here and I found out how to live and how to stay sober. And so I continued to come back through. When I was new, it was so very important because I discovered that I needn't be concerned about what I was going to do 9.5 years from now. That it was not a 9.5-year program. I thought it was, but they said, no, it isn't. It's a program for today, and that's all you got. It's a program for now, really. And that's all there is right now. I couldn't change what happened a couple of hours ago, and I can't tell you for sure what's going down a couple of hours from now. That if there's anything really going in my life, it's going now, right now. And I discovered, by golly, I better get all I can get. Good, bad, or indifferent, I better get it and get it right now. Because it may not be true again. Or maybe I'm not coming this way again. And so I better get all that there is right now. And I've found out that if I can take care of that period of my life, that the day will take care of itself. And the day's been going now, and it's been over 28 years. And I can testify here tonight, it went that fast. It was just the other day that I walked through the doors, and I was sitting there in those AA meetings, and I'm going through those mental jigs of wondering what the hell am I doing in Alcoholics Anonymous? Because I'm not somebody that was overjoyed over the fact that I'm an alcoholic and going to AA. Because when I came into the program, there wasn't a hell of a lot of class, to be an alcoholic and a member of AA. We didn't have the PR system we got out there now. There wasn't any status connected to it. Hell, they didn't hand you out pins that said you're a 32nd degree alcoholic. You run all over town, showed everybody your pin, and the town was just wild about it. Glad you made it, Norm, No. I wasn't looking forward to this. I resisted this program right down to the bitter end. And I think most alcoholics did. Hell, the day before I came to the program, I wasn't even an alcoholic. No. I was a heavy drinker and a victim of unusual circumstances, rotten drivers and bad whiskey, but I ain't no alcoholic. I go to AA. And then one day you wake up and here you are, you see. So I felt in the offset that I was alcoholic, probably because of my environment, my family, my nationality, and people, places, and things. Isn't that the way it goes? It's all that out there that created all of the trouble. But you know and I know it didn't create any trouble. What the hell if you put my family into some kind of a category? Why, we're Irish Italian, first generation born in this country, too poor to paint and too proud to whitewash, and that'd take care of us for the last 100 years, Not overly intelligent and talked a lot with our hands, but I'll tell you one thing about us. We knew a hell of a lot about booze, I'll guarantee you that. The Italians made it and the Irish drank it, and I got to AA, and that's just about the way it was. But they didn't create and they didn't cause anything. I'm alcoholic because I drank too much whiskey, and if you're sitting out there new tonight, you might have a similar problem. I drank that whiskey as hard and as fast as I could drink it. And somewhere in that lottery of my life, I crossed some invisible line from the social aspect of drinking into the compulsive area where one's too many and 1,000 aren't enough. The booze was the problem, and I'm the guy that did the drinking of the booze. So when you get right down to the bottom line, why the problem is still the same. It's me, because no matter where I go, I'm the first guy to get there. I've never had to call anybody up and say, Charlie, will you please come down to L.A. and help me get it screwed up? I have never had to do that. I've been able to take care of that myself, you see. I've been able to overreact to any situation, anywhere, anytime. I don't need any assistance. And I had that qualification long before I ever took a drink. I traveled half my life and half the world I saw out there. I made a complete ass of myself. I spent money I didn't have buying things I didn't need, trying to impress people I didn't like. I sat around them gin mills and I built the castles in the air and I formed the corporations. I talked in millions, spent in thousands, and never had a dollar in my pocket. I felt it was very important to impress a lot of people I'd never met in my life that I was something I wasn't. And I think, that's virtually the story of many alcoholics. In August, for example, you might find me driving in L.A. with the windows rolled up to make everybody think I had an air conditioner, I don't know what it is about an alcoholic, but he has always got to be better than, but he doesn't know what than is, you see. Yeah. And one of the greatest things that ever happened to me was that when I came here, I found out that I didn't have to exist that way any longer. When I walked through the doors at AA, well, they told me straight out, you know, them old shooters says, man, let me tell you something. Don't impress us here, buddy. Hell, we've been impressed by Experts, Norm. No matter where we've been, where you've been, we got there long before you did. Now, you must remember that. But, you know, I'm fairly hard-headed, and you got to lay a little on them once in a while. And I remember, well, we get one evening, and I was pretty new, and I told this old-timer, says, man, I've been in jail about 25 times. He said, the hell you have. I did that in a year, son. So right away, you know, you discover the equalizer. You find out that everybody really is an expert in AA. And you know the beauty of that statement is you don't need to take my word for it. All you got to do is just talk to the guy next to you about anything. It don't make any difference. He's going to comment on it one way or another. If he doesn't know what the hell you're talking about, he'll probably say, that's true, yeah, you know. But it really is a relief to know that you don't have to impress anybody anywhere about anything anymore. And when I came in here, I found out that I'm not in competition with you or with anybody else. I found out all I've got to be is be myself, be sober, and be a little bit better today than what I was yesterday. And that's really all it's asked. And that's one hell of a deal when you sit down and think about it. No longer do I have to justify my existence or compromise my life. And if you're sitting out there new this evening, you might give it a little thought, and you might buy the package that's available to you here, and you might take it out there with me tomorrow on that city street, and you two and I'll spend a day just kind of being sober and being a little bit better than what we were. And it's as good a deal as I've ever found. And I got to believe I'm a guy that looked half the world out there trying to find the best deal. And I never found it, not until I got here and was around and surrounded by a great group of people that would call themselves Alcoholics Anonymous. Tonight, to briefly tell you a little bit about what I was like. Now, I've told you a lot. I got a bad attitude. As a matter of fact, I got a rotten attitude. And by virtue of my rotten attitude, I had a lot of rotten trouble out there. And I started getting in that trouble about 1939. I was arrested for stealing. I was too young to drink. And I was stealing because that's the business I was in. I'm a thief by trade. I'm an alcoholic by absorption. I think that's the way they laid it out. I was the general manager, vice president of all the outside operations of the Midnight Auto Supply in the San Gabriel Valley. When people asked me what I did, I said I'm in the car business. And I sold cars. And hell of a job. I really enjoyed it. But it was illegal, and that is very unfortunate. And the old saying, you know, what's going out is coming back, and if you're going to play, you got to pay. The law of retribution. I understand it today. I understood it in 1939 when I stood there in front of my first judge, when he said, you're going to go to the reformatory in Whittier, and you're going to give us 7 years of your life because you're a criminal and you're a thief, and get the hell out of here. Now, I really didn't believe all those things that he told me. I really didn't believe there was this thing that says what's going out is coming back if you're going to play. If you're going to violate the principles of the city, the rules and the regulations, for example, the 12 steps of the program and the commandments as you understand them, somewhere down the road, well, you got to come to scratch. And I'm the first to admit it's a rotten setup, but that's the way it is, you see. And you get to the point in your life where you're just going to have to absolutely take it for what it is out there. Well, now, I got sent out there to do all that time, but I wasn't there. That length of time, I was there a very short period of time. Been very lucky in my life. I was released. I came back into Los Angeles, and I didn't have any change of attitude. I'm looking for something, fantasy, I suppose, in my life, and booze walked in, and that was the fantasy I was trying to find. They stayed with me for about the next 15 years. I began drinking in 41. Easter week in L.A. is a big deal, and I'm out of L.A., and Easter week in L.A., we go, Balboa Beach, the Rendezvous Ballroom, Stan Kenton, and Padre Beer, and that's where we got it going. We drink a little Padre, and we get a little buzz on. We go in the dance hall there. We dance with them dollies. We'd act 4 times drunker than what we were. We breathe on the girls, let them know, But, big man's in from L.A., baby. What do you say? A lot of fun. In the beginning, we had a lot of fun. I was no born alcoholic. At least I don't think I was. I did have to get up the next day and have to have something to drink. But it was the big bands. It was a train on down Southgate and the Cotton Club in Culver City and the Pasadena Civic and the Darcys and the Millers and the Stan Kentons and the fun. A lot of fun. Jesus, we did have a hell of a lot of fun. No trouble. I moved out of Padre Beer because it was not really enough. You had to drink a lot of it to get a buzz on, and you spent a lot of time in the restroom. So, I moved out from Padre Beer to Rainier Ale, and from Rainier Ale, I moved to whiskey. Now, when I got to whiskey, there it was. I didn't need anything more than whiskey. You know, whiskey did it all. Whiskey got me downtown. Hell, that's all I ever wanted to be. All my life, I want to be downtown, man, and I don't want to be downtown just a little bit. I want to get there right now, and that's one thing about that whiskey. Jesus, it gets your attention. I liked it. I even got to the point in my life where I liked the taste of whiskey. A lot of guys, my sponsor, drank for 30 years and hated every drop he ever drank. But I like not only the buzz, but, man, I like the taste of it. Not in the beginning. You know, when you're young and you're training out there, I broke in on that 10 high, and I saw the sign coming in out here. You know, they used to have a sign a couple of years ago about 10 high. It said 10 high whiskey won the West. I remember reading it going down the 60 freeway. I damn near went right through the double divider there. You know, I thought, Christ, they almost killed a bunch of us is what they did, but that 10 high was rotten, and anybody's drank it will agree with me. I don't think they made anything worse. Man, it burned going and coming. It ran out my nose and made my eyes water, but I hung in. And I think that's important. You know, if you're going to be an alcoholic, you don't give up because you throw up, do you? Hell no, you stay in there, boy. The day comes you can drink a pint of whiskey, you don't heave anymore, and it just kind of makes you feel good all over, doesn't it? But whiskey really warped my personality. I started getting in more trouble than I could count. And by the end of 41, I was in a bad jam, and they were going to violate my probation and send me back to jail. But the war had broke out by then. They gave me the opportunity to join the service, and I joined the Navy in January 1942. And I went in a seaman, and I came out 4 years later, and I was a seaman. And that more or less tells you the story of my naval career. I survived the 4 years I went in. I survived because, like most alcoholics, I'm a hard worker. You know, most alcoholics are. They got to work 25% harder than anybody else just to stay even out there, you know. Because the alcoholic is always coming from behind. He's always got the heat on, so when he's right, he's got to go like hell in order to get that heat off. On Tuesday, that's our best day, you know. We miss Monday, but we give her hell out there Tuesday, don't we? Yeah. We initiated the 4-day week long before the unions got into it. And we survived out there, by God, because we went like hell when we were right in order that we could stay in there and keep that job and make that money and buy that booze, and it became a vicious circle. And that was the story of my naval career. While I was aboard ship and at sea, I did a good job. I like ships and I like the sea. I drank some of that crap aboard ship, you know, that Sneaky Pete and a little Vitalis once in a while. But you know, I never really, I liked what I was doing, and so I didn't get involved in it. But when that ship pulled into port and I was on the beach, man, I'm gone, and I'm gone for as long as I can go until the money runs out or I end up in the slammer. So consequently, I had 3 court-martials. I had a deck, a summary, a general court. I did 11 and a half months in a Navy brig up there on the top of Goat Island run by the Marine Corps. I had 70, 80 days solitary confinement on bread and water and some other miscellaneous things that aren't important, but they were all directly due to booze. Now, I discharged out on Christmas Eve of 45. I came back to LA in 46. I'm an alcoholic. I've crossed the invisible line. When I went across it, who the hell knows? But I'm across the invisible line. I'm out there looking for that answer, living on a quart of whiskey. I'm trying to drink like my old man and my brothers and the guys that I'm running with, and I'm getting in a hell of a lot of trouble, and I don't understand it. And in 1946, I heard about AA. God, in His infinite wisdom, you know, no matter what you do or you don't do, it's going to work out that way anyway. In 1946, I heard about AA. I was having a lot of trouble in a little town down here called Pasadena. I still don't, it's a rotten town, I'll tell you that. Since they put that freeway through there, I'm the happiest guy in town, because, man, zing, I'm right through. Even today, you know, some die harder than others, you see. But I was having a lot of trouble in 1946. Every time I turned around, well, I was being picked up. I went in front of this judge on my second 502, and the judge said, year suspended, 3-year probation. In a place that serves or sells alcoholic beverages, and I hear about it while you're going to jail for a year. Get out of my court. And I'm walking out of his courtroom, and I'm saying to myself, and I can remember like yesterday, you know, alcoholics talk to themselves. And I'm saying, self, don't drink in Pasadena. You are having a lot of trouble. Now, you don't need 140 IQ to understand that, don't you? I am not going to drink in that rotten town anymore. You know, you've made your mind up, by God. Don't confuse me with the facts. That's the way it's going to be. Well, 2 or 3 months go by, and I'm not doing any drinking in Pasadena. It's going pretty good, and I'm down one of the beach towns one night, and I'm drinking, and I get a half a load on, and I began to think that that's a bad deal for an alcoholic. He should think or drink, but he should never do them both at the same time. No. Because you think about dumb things like, I'm going back to Pasadena, by God, yeah. Oh, yeah. An alcoholic, insanity, I have no trouble with that part of the program. So what the hell, I get my car, I drive back. I was 75 miles, and I drive back into Pasadena. I went down to a joint there called the Green Terrace. I met a buddy of mine. We closed the trap, and we're talking about going to Eagle Rock to an after-hours place, and that's the last thing I remembered until I woke up in jail, and I'm in Pasadena. And I read that book and slip, and I'm in on a 501 felony, drunk driving, hit and run, bodily injury involved. And I might add, but for the grace of God, that looks after damn fools and drunks, why I didn't kill 4 people that night. Because you see, alcoholism is a game of seconds and inches. A few seconds, a few inches, a snap of the finger. You see, if I'd have been over 3.5 feet, I would have broadsided that automobile. At the rate of speed I was traveling, I would have killed him. I recognize that today. As it was, I hit that car in the back end. The car spun in the street. There were some injuries involved. They were minor, of a minor nature, thank God. And I was brought up in front of the judge, and the judge sent me to jail. And in the city jail, I had an opportunity to share a jail cell with a guy going to AA. Crazy, isn't it? No matter what you do or you don't do, there it goes. It's going to work out that way anyway. You see, there was one guy out of maybe 200, 250 people were doing time. And only one guy, he got out of jail once a week. Once a week, some people from the program used to pick him up and take him to a meeting. And they bring him back. He was a trustee. They allowed him that privilege. And once a week, he would sit there in that jail cell after he'd been in the meeting, and he would tell me all about the people he'd met and what was going on. And I just wasn't listening. And he even wanted to fix it up with the sergeant, where he said, I can get it fixed, man, and you can go to a meeting with me. He says, Norm, you're in here because of booze. And I said, yeah, but my case is a lot different than yours, or words to that effect. Or I'm having a lot of bad luck, and I was always having bad luck. The rotten people out there. Once we get that world straightened out, it's going to be all right, Sully. And I'm too young to be an alcoholic. I said, what the hell? You should go, old man. Jesus, you're 36. You really don't have much to look forward to. Well, the world is run by, and you might as well go and do whatever you got to do down there. But leave me alone, will you, for crying out loud? But when I get to be as bad as you and as old as you, maybe I'll do something about that. And I went my way and he went his. But that seed, the power of the seed of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's a very powerful thing. You see, I'd never been to a meeting. I didn't know really what AA was about, except you went there when you had some kind of booze problem. But periodically through the next 8 years, I used to wonder about old Sully. I used to wonder what the hell he was. I wondered if all this AA thing is still around. And the new people that are here tonight, now that seed has been planted. Now you may go back out again, and you may sit around in them gin mills and drink a little booze, but we're going to be with you see. One thing we flat guarantee you, we've screwed you drinking up for the rest of your life. You're never going to have any more fun out there, because from time to time we're going to be sitting here. Hello there, how are you? It's terrible, but that's the way it is. I hope you don't have to go back out. But if you do, come on back to see us, will you please? That powerful seed. In that 8 years that I was out there, I consumed a great deal of whiskey. I went to work for one of the largest construction firms in the world, and I stayed with these people 11 years. In that 11-year period of time, I was very fortunate at being at the right place at the right time, and I had a good, moving on up. We had a lot of work going in 11 western states. I worked for 3 Yugoslavs that came from the old country. They made all their money with hard work and good whiskey. And so everything is moving my way. We were in the pipeline and the tunnel business, and we had everything moving. And I'm drinking better whiskey in better places, and I'm making more money, and things are moving my way. And I had a little setback. I met and married a little red-headed Irish woman. Had a violent temper, rotten disposition, yelled at me a great deal, and never recognized my sensitivity. Alcoholics are very sensitive people, and if you're one, you'll agree to that. Now, you go out there drunk for 2 or 3 days, and you come home, and you're tired. You've been busy out there, put a lot of deals together, huh? A little sick, too. You walk in the house, you'd like to be greeted with a little love, affection, and understanding, right? Oh, hell, not around my house. You walk in the door, into the kitchen, there she stands, that red-headed woman, 5'3", mean as hell, saying, "You're drunk again." And I'd stand there dumbfounded, wondering, how in the hell does she know? She can't smell my breath. You know, I could call her on the phone. She'd say, "You're drinking, aren't you?" You know, and that really used to throw me. I thought, Christ, she can't see me through the phone. I even got so paranoid, I thought she'd hired people to follow me. I'd sit around them gin mills and look around, see where the hell they were out there, you know. Not only did I have that problem of that yelling and that nagging at me, but she was pregnant all the time, too. Every other year. Jesus, she got herself in that condition 8 different times. I couldn't believe it. I used to sit around them bars wondering how the hell could it happen when I'm not home that much, you know. That Vatican roulette, man, them numbers would flop up 14 every other year. Hey, there she goes, you know, Jesus. Couldn't even make a bar bill. And that nagging at you again. I'd say, "Who, me?" Like 30 guys are with you, you know. Yeah, but you got to get her on the defensive. And she'd say, "Yeah, you." I say, "Baby, do you know who you're talking to?" Hey, trying to let her in on a hell of a deal. I introduced myself. "Baby, I'm old Norm. That's who I am." And don't you ever forget that, woman. And then she'd mimic me, as only the way them Irish women could do it. You know, "I'm old Norm." You know. Jesus, that's so degrading for a high roller. Standing there with your new business partner, right? You've met him in the bar last night, you've asked him home. But the reason he's coming home with me is that he doesn't want to go home alone either, you know. Because he's scared of his wife. He's married to an Italian woman. They're as bad as them Irish a lot of times, you know. And so there you are, the blind leading the blind. Going, "You've embarrassed me in front of my best friend, baby. If you don't apologize, shut that rotten mouth of yours. I'm leaving this dump, and I'm telling you now, I ain't never coming back. And what do you think of that?" And she go down and throw all my clothes out. So then you got to pick the clothes up and you got to pack them out to the car. In and out, loading up the car, right? You got to save face in front of your friend that you don't know his name. That clothes-packing alcoholic's a joy to that neighborhood, I'll guarantee you. That beats the hell out of Gunsmoke on Saturday, doesn't it? Watch the old alky out there staggering around, loading up his car, honking his horn, driving away. Yeah. Then you wake up a couple of days later in the front seat of your car. You're sleeping there again. We have a lot of car sleepers in AA. It helps get us into AA. You know, having your head screwed up under that armrest all night and the door handle in your ear, You ever wake up about midnight and you're just sick as hell and you think your window's down but it's up? You know, you heave right into your window. And you knock the hell out of your head. And then a typical alcoholic, he rolls the window down. Squish, 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 right. And then he sits there and says to himself, "Why don't I roll it down before I heave on it, I wonder?" But these are big problems, major problems in the life of an alcoholic. But now I got to go home because I got to wash the car out. And on the way home you have a flat tire, but you never change it. Not if you're drinking, you don't. You might hurt yourself. And no self-respecting alcoholic would change a flat tire. He will drive on them. Because he knows it'll go away, right? Yeah. Because everything that's disagreeable in our life will go away. We never face anything. It'll go away. And it does. Tire goes away. You're now driving on the rim. We have a lot of rim drivers in AA, yeah. And the sparks fly and the neighbors run out. And they get all the kids out of the way. You pull the car into the driveway, up in the lawn, open the door, and you fall out. And then we lay out there for a while so the neighbors might inspect us. There, oh, there he is, yes, yeah. And then the poor old alky gets up and he says to himself, "I wonder if anybody saw me," yeah. Because he's worried about what people think about him. All alcoholics worry about their reputations. We never do anything about it. We worry a lot about it, though. Well, all my drinking was done out there in those gin mills, as I indicated earlier. I'm a bar drinker because I like the rotten music and the dark lights and the intellectual giants, and I like sitting there solving them problems and Wonder what the hell the poor people are doing tonight, huh? Like sitting there about midnight and kind of looking in that mirror. You get that Maybelline look about midnight, don't you? You devil, there you are, by God, yeah. It's incredible how good looking you get, isn't it? Suave, good looking, well built, intellectual, and wealthy. Got a $30 smiling Frankie Gordon suit on. You got 50 cents worth of whiskey and chili right down the front of it there. Smell bad and you can't talk and you mumble a great deal and you fall off the bar stool. You go to the men's room and it's a pay toilet. It's a bad deal. You haven't got the money and you got to slide under that door, huh? Oh, yeah, a lot of door sliders in AA. Then you slide out again because you're so drunk you don't realize once you get in all you had to do is just turn the handle and walk out. Not the alky, you know, to hell with it. Slides in, he slides out. That's the way it's going to be, right? And he wanders on out to find his car, which he's lost, and he can't. I think finding your car is one of the greatest things that happen to any alcoholic. It's kind of a spiritual experience, isn't it? There it is. It hasn't been impounded. God love your car, you know. Open the door and you get in and go to bed again, right? And we laugh about all these things today, but when we're grinding it out, there isn't a great deal to laugh about because we're grinding out every loving thing we own in our life that means anything to us. Little by little, it goes. Hell, the respect of the people I worked for, the people I did business with, it was going. I saw him going